Aloha, random people of the internet. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to Talk Story, and congratulations to you. You lucked out. I'm wearing clothes on this episode. I do live in Southern California, and part of the reason I'm shirtless for most of these is because Southern California has no problem getting hot. But I'm a Bay Area boy in San Francisco, born and raised. I am used to the cold. I prefer the cold. Not that Alaska cold, but that Bay Area chill is my favorite temperature. And here I am in Southern California now, where I feel like I'm melting at 75. But that's besides the point. Today is a special little episode about fitting in. So if you are like me, you're someone who has never really fit in life, and if you're kind of struggling, maybe this one's for you. So the topic came up today. I just got out of this conversation. My friend, she's really worried about her son who feels like he's not fitting in elementary school. And so I encouraged her, like, look, let's just when he gets out of school, let's treat him and make sure he feels loved, and also just try to teach him that the world is just not a fair place, and that you're not always going to fit in, but that's okay. It doesn't mean you're not loved. It doesn't mean you're not special and important. And in fact, as far as I'm concerned, what I have to say about this video, I think not fitting in is a wonderful gift. And so I'm gonna tell a little bit about my story growing up, and I'll get into why I think that's a gift, and you can tell me in the comments whether you think this is useful or not. So here we go. So growing up in San Francisco, I am Hawaiian, Samoan, and Chinese and white. And when I was growing up, I was also going to school in largely Latin population schools, and not saying, trying to be offensive to Latin people, but they're not always the tallest people. So literally I was going to school coming from a nationality of very tall, big people. And so I was very big compared to everyone else, but I was so big that I was essentially wearing adult clothes by the time I was 10 years old. And so many people would stop and tell my mother, oh, there's something wrong with your boy. There's something wrong with your kid. What's going on with him? And then we finally would go to the doctor, and he was like, wow, your son is very large. He's not that I was super fat. I was just pudgy like a normal kid, but just that I was so big. And then, he finally asked us, well, what's your ethnic background? What's your nationality? And the first thing she said was Samoan. And he went, oh, okay, well, then this is normal. You know what I mean? So right off the bat, I'm not fitting in because I'm so big. And not that I didn't have some friends here and there, but also even at a young age, I was kind of used to being by myself. I was okay with being by myself. I really was the kind of kid who just loved watching TV and being sucked into Saturday morning cartoons, and a lot of times even Monday through Friday was some kind of entertainment for a kid if you woke up early enough to watch it. And I would just be totally happy in my zone, drawing, doodling on a piece of paper, watching TV. That was totally fine with me. My parents did a good job of making sure we felt loved, and we had really, really good larger family that we would see often. So in terms of feeling loved, I never felt unloved. But just at school, I did have trouble fitting in. I had a few friends, but even then, again, just naturally, I was kind of okay being by myself. Maybe I would feel lonely sometimes, but I remember distinctly that in elementary, there was a thing called the red chair. Let me know if you know what I'm talking about. So basically, in class, if you acted out in class, you would be sent to the red chair, which was in the dark corner of the room, and you would have to sit there. That was our form of detention. You act out, you're not able to behave, you have to go sit in the red chair. And time after time, day after day, kids would get sent to the red chair, and we would all see them. They would just, no, I don't want to go. They would cry their eyes out because they don't want to be left out. They don't want to be alone. They feel, they're just suffering over there. But one day I acted out and I got sent to the red chair, and everyone's like, oh, he acted out. He's going to the red chair. Oh my God. You know what I mean? The guy who never goes to the red chair goes to the red chair. And then when I got to the red chair, I was like, hold on a minute. You mean all I gotta do is sit here and I don't have to participate in class? This is awesome. You know, I mean, this is cool for me. I was like, what's the big deal? Why are people crying about this? This is fine. I don't want to do what the class is doing anyway. I just want to do my doodling, and not that I was allowed to do that, but hey, I was always a kid who, when they talk about, and they don't talk about it anymore, but the dreamer. I look out the window, I'm just happy to watch the birds flying and the planes flying, and imagine where they're going, where they came from, and imagine little stories going on. My mind was always in that universe. So I was perfectly okay with that. I mean, I think even going into middle school, high school, yeah, there'd be friends here and there, friends come and go. But when there was not that much friendship, it didn't matter that much to me because in my head, I'm like, well, I'm also, again, okay with just doodling and doing my own thing. The loneliness that would hit actually came for me much later. But at least as far as being young went, I was comfortable being the oddball because I was never bored. And like for me, boredom not an issue. My imagination's always going. It's never stopping. It's not even stopping when someone's talking like, oh yeah, a plus b equals mc squared. Okay, sure. But what if the a came to life and started fighting with B, and it didn't matter. Like my mind is just going off to some fantasy world that's not here anyway. But that was me. But I want to say this because I know that so many people, and all of you have different reasons. Some of you do have trouble at home, or maybe your parents not around, or maybe they've passed, and that's definitely what's happened. Sadly, for my friend's son, is that his father passed away just a few years ago. So it's been a difficult transition for them, and I've been doing my best as the good uncle to be there as some form of example and support. But I know that it's no replacement for having your father there. And I've already had two friends in different ages, one closer to mine, one much older than me, who've had similar circumstances, and I just see the struggles that they have, that what hurt them as a kid still bothers them to this day. And that's kind of partly why I've shown up as the uncle. I'm like, I don't want this kid to deal with what my friends have dealt with. But nonetheless, here's my whole thing. It's just, regardless of whatever the hard thing is that you're going through, and I'm sorry for that, I can't help you with that. I'm just some dude on a video on YouTube. But what I can tell you is, if your kid is struggling with loneliness, if you can, just take some time, make sure he feels loved. Make sure he or she, or whatever the deal is, make sure that your kid feels loved. That's number one. But also remind them that it's okay. It's going to be okay. You are loved, and you gotta realize that sometimes not being part of the crowd is the best thing. Because there was a saying when I was growing up, if everyone jumps off of a cliff, is that what you're going to do? If everyone jumps off of a bridge, are you going to do it too? Which is to say, sometimes being with the group is not the smartest thing. There's so many times when sometimes the group is the worst thing to be a part of. And for me, let me make this example with a book that I really love. So if any of you are interested in the science fiction books, there's a series called the Old Man's War series from John Scalzi. I read Old Man's War in high school, or I read Old Man's War in high school or college. And the first book is about old people. This takes place in the far future. Old people are the only ones who are enlisted into the space military. There's a space military that goes out into space, and no one on Earth actually knows why or what they do. And so what you've come to find out, mini spoilers because reading it is fantastic, you come to find out that they're picked to go to space because actually there's this entire secret space war going on that Earth doesn't even know about. but they pick old people because old people have the life experience of so many different things that they don't have to teach them how to behave or how to handle situations for the most part in a way that's effective. But in addition to that, what they do is they avatar these people. They put them in a genetically modified superior body with their mind, and that it's that body that goes out and does all these amazing things. The old person is not expected to fight space wars, but when they first get their bodies, and it's such an amazing experience, or just before they do, someone dies, and one of the old people dies before the body thing happens, before they get the genetically modified body. One guy dies, and the people that pick him up and take him away say, oh, that's one for the ghost brigades. And so while Old Man's War is still my favorite, Ghost Brigades is the second book, where you actually, I didn't even realize this till now, is that you actually see what happened to that person. So the old man dies, but they keep his genetic material, and the problem is they just don't have a mind to put in the body. So the body comes out to be a fresh mind. And what happens is that the Ghost Brigades is this specific group of superhuman soldiers that, because they come out mind wiped, because they come out with no mind, no original mind, they're essentially pod born into a little squad. They're pre-squatted, and as a group they learn how to handle situations. They learn teamwork and warfare as a team, and the Ghost Brigades are essentially the super marines, because they're such an effective team fighting force, because they get to start out fresh, that's they're sent in for specific kill missions, or things with high intense situations where you just need someone who's only born and bred. They're like Spartans, only born and bred for battle, and that's what these guys are good for. But something happens at the start of Ghost Brigades where there's a glitch. There's some kind of error that makes our main character, when he comes out of being cloned, our main character comes out late. He doesn't come out with a group. And an essential part of these pod-born Ghost Brigaders, or Brigadiers, is that they're all literally wake up at the same time, experience everything the same exact way, and that's part of what creates this mental synchronicity between everybody. But because of whatever glitch it was, he comes out exactly 5 minutes after everybody else has woken up, left, and started their training. And so this guy faces that exact experience of like, I'm off. Like, everyone else is in sync with each other and playing with each other, and I'm just sort of sitting back, and I just can't quite fit in. And so I'm not even realizing this till I'm saying this now. This is all a giant metaphor for being a kid and not fitting in with everybody else. And even talking about Old Man's War, I like that main character is someone who, he had a life, but he wasn't exactly the popular kid. He wasn't exactly all these things that you would want to be growing up. But, part of the story is accepting that. But in the case of Ghost Brigades, we're watching this clone who's not fitting in with the other clones. All the other clones are having all these private jokes between each other, and he can't get it because he was late to the program. And yet this is his team, so he has no choice but to try and acclimate. But what happens is something happens in the training where all of a sudden, they've been through all these different challenges, all these different war games to teach them how to handle battles and all this stuff. But all of a sudden they face a challenge where the group does not know what to do. The group is so confused. And this is a beautiful thing about the storytelling of Ghost Brigades, is that when the book starts, it starts up with our character waking up and looking up at someone who's looking down at him, and is like, oh, hey, look who joined us. You know what I mean? And he's just looking up, and he's looking up in wonder, because he is truly a fresh child. He's like a fresh person in the world. And then when they're in this situation and the group doesn't know what to do, they have literally solved every single challenge together without really the help of our main guy. He just kind of had to keep up with them. And then suddenly, now the group doesn't know what to do. And then our main guy just stops and he looks up and he realizes that whatever their challenge is requires getting over a fence or something like that. And he realizes, wait, there's trees. You know what I mean? I can just climb the tree and hop the fence, no problem. And then this is not an issue. And so while other Ghost Brigade learners are passing and doing whatever they need to do, this one's stuck on this particular challenge. But because our main guy was outside of the group and he doesn't really fit in, he has the perspective, right? He has the ability to step back, assess the situation, and find a creative solution. Because everyone else is thinking the exact same way, right? They're all fitting in, but now they're fitting in and not able to solve what is ultimately a solvable issue. But the one who is stepped back and doesn't fit in, that guy is able to figure out what's going on. And he comes up with a solution, gets the entire squad to win. And this becomes like the first big win for the squad. And it's all because this one person who never fit in, nobody really liked him very much because he couldn't fit in, even though they're all clones anyway. It's like, it's like, you're a clone. It's not like you're that special. But, that's how he was treated. And then all of a sudden now he's the big head. Now he's the big honcho because he solved what appeared to be an unsolvable problem. But it was just unsolvable because the group couldn't stop thinking with the convention. The group had a conventional way of thinking. They were all locked into this way of thinking. And because they can only think that way, it took an outsider to go, oh, that's the solution. So, and not only that, but I'm not going to say what it is because I've also forgotten. I read Ghost Brigade so long ago. But later on, they have a very serious mission that's it's super dangerous. And again, the group can't solve it. But it comes back to our hero who always looks outside of the box. And he, again, saves everybody because he sees another pathway. While everyone else is looking at all the problems, he is actually looking for a creative solution. And it's creativity. Okay? There's a problem with politicians who don't believe in art, okay? And even most people can't conceive of what art is. And why is that? Because art seems to be this abstract thing, right? It's like, oh, you're just drawing for the sake of drawing. That's not useful. Actually, creativity is hugely useful. There's a reason, like this whole story about the outsider who doesn't fit in, who can solve problems that the group can't solve. I mean, this is a story that is proven time and again. Outsiders who can't fit in end up solving massive problems for the group because they think outside the box, because they're not part of the group think tank. There's the movie Hacksaw Ridge, which I still haven't seen yet, but I've seen clips about it so many times, based on the real story of a British soldier who did not want to fight. He said, I want to join the military and I want to help the fight, but I don't personally want to fight. I just want to be there as a medic to support the fighters because I believe in the fight, but I don't personally. He had religious values. He did not want to kill anybody. And so the story goes that everyone laughed at him. He was this weirdo to everybody. No one really took him seriously. And so he was the outsider. Nobody wanted to be his friend. Nobody liked him. And then all of a sudden, a horrific battle goes on. And this guy manages to be out of the way. And just out of pure luck, he ends up, realizing he's going to escape himself because he's one of the few people to survive. And everyone else that could run away and retreat already has. But out of pure luck, he realizes the man next to him is still alive. And he decides, oh, well, I gotta save this guy. And so they're hiding from Japanese soldiers who are running around looking for people who aren't dead. And this, because this guy, he's a medic, and he's paying attention, he's like, oh, this guy's still alive. And so he starts pulling his fellow wounded soldiers out of the war zone, but he has to do it quietly and carefully. And he helps get them to the safe zone where the other soldiers from his platoon are waiting. And the other soldiers, they have no clue. All of a sudden, wounded soldiers start coming down to safety with them. And they're like, what's going on? Who's doing this? And it gets to such a point that after getting many, many soldiers to safety, our main guy from Hacksaw Ridge, who's played by Andrew Garfield, by the way, and I'm sorry I don't know the name because I haven't watched this movie, but now I want to because it's such a prime example. All of a sudden, he even runs into a wounded Japanese soldier, and he chooses to help him too. And so, surviving by the skin of his teeth, Andrew Garfield's character, this real life medical soldier, ended up saving 37 lives. 37, I think either it was Americans or English, but either way, he ends up saving 37 members of his platoon who would have just sat there and died because of triage, retreat, and whoever fell behind, unfortunately, you have to leave him. He saves 37 people. But he was the one who was on the outside. He was different. Nobody liked him. But he still had something of value. He still cared about human life, and his specialty of being a medic allowed him to save lives. And if he wasn't there with this group of people that didn't care about him, then he never could have saved them, and they never could have discovered his value. But nonetheless, he knew his value, and he brought that value to the situation. He knew that he had an outside perspective, but he still wanted to do his part. So this is just something crucial for you to think about, that it is valuable actually to not fit in, because someday not fitting in might give you a perspective that other people just can't take. And people won't want to hear it. People are not going to want to hear your point of view because you're not part of the think tank. But at the end of the day, those same people will absolutely depend on you because you don't have the same thinking as they do. And you're not going to know how it's going to happen until it happens. There's this Prince of Egypt is another one of my favorite movies. Now, for those of you who don't know the Moses story, it takes place in the times of Egypt when there's all these slaves, the Hebrew slaves, and there's this mass killing of the slave children. Moses' mother puts him in a little baby carriage and sets him off into the river, and the river carries baby Moses to the Pharaoh. And it's the Pharaoh's wife who finds him and decides to adopt him into their life. And then Moses grows up living a spoiled, wonderful life, never knowing his true origin. And I don't know how much of this is, I know the movie starts off with, we modified events to make a more entertaining story, but we hope that you appreciate the spirit of what we have to say. So essentially, Moses grows up spoiled, and he's a wild adventurer. And, there's this whole scene where there's this woman who, she's not Hebrew, she's an outsider, but she's become a slave of the Pharaoh. And Moses' brother, Ramses, has decided to gift this woman to him. And the woman is snapping at him, and he's like, I don't want this gift. And then he embarrasses her. But later on, Moses witnesses her escaping and he feels bad for embarrassing her. So later on, when she's escaping, he actually helps her escape by distracting some guards. And then eventually he learns his heritage. He learns that he's one of the Hebrews. He's technically a slave. And at that point, he's hit with all the guilt of his entire life, that he's lived off of the joys of what slaves have done for him, and he's one of them, and sees an old man being whipped and rushes to save that old man's life, but ends up accidentally killing one of the Egyptian guards who was whipping the slave. And this becomes the huge signature moment that makes Moses reject his entire life to the point where he runs away. And when he runs away, he runs into the desert, and he eventually finds two children being accosted by criminals, traveling criminals, and he ends up rescuing the children in a clever, cute way, where he makes their llama with all their stuff run away by slapping its butt. And so the llama with all their stuff runs away, and they're like, oh, hey. And so he saves these girls and ends up being invited into this little community. And the community is celebrating what he's done. They're so happy he's there and that he rescued basically all of these girls are related. The slave that he let get free, and then these two young girls who are being accosted, they're actually all the daughters of the head religious man of this little group. And it's that man who steps up to him and says, why aren't you celebrating? And Moses says, there's nothing to celebrate for. I've done nothing in my life worth celebrating. Because he's so crushed by all of his revelation that he can't even enjoy the fact that he did rescue these people. And so the dad of these girls says to him, first you rescue my daughter from slavery, then you save my other two daughters from criminals, and you say that's not worth celebrating? Well, clearly you don't know what is valuable in life. And there's this whole song, Through Heaven's Eyes, which is so beautiful. And let me state, I'm not a religious guy, not to any faction anyway. I have my own belief system. But this movie was hugely influential for me in what my belief system is. And then the whole song is about, I love the opening lines. It's like, do you think a thread of a rug is concerned about its place in the larger tapestry? Do you think a stone at the top of a mountain is concerned with its place, on the mountain? No, they are just where they are, and they have a place in essentially God's plan and in God's beauty. And you must look at your life through heaven's eyes. You must look at your life with perspective. Step back and have perspective. And you also must learn to join the dance. So the whole song is this beautiful piece of storytelling where Moses is learning to accept that he has done something worth celebrating and to join these people in this dance, to literally sort of become, to let go of whatever it is he thinks he is and just become the person in the moment. And he learns to join the dance and eventually marries Zipporah, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, and becomes part of this group. What a wonderful way to enter the group, by rescuing the daughters of the man who runs the group. But that's what it takes. It really took some convincing to get him to realize, that he realizes that his heritage is the slave and outsider of the the family he grew up in, and now he permanently feels that way. Or it would have been permanent without this moment of, hey, look what you've done in your life. You have value, and your values is very good. You're a rescuer, and so welcome to my family. Join our dance. Be one of us. And so he gets a family of his own, and so such a beautiful story. But I just wanted to make the point of, like, you have to look at your life through heaven's eyes, and you have to, I think even more importantly, what Moses does, when he's spoiled and selfish, he embarrasses Zipporah. But when he realizes his true heart, he feels bad for embarrassing her. He helps set her free. And after realizing who he really is, he didn't mean to kill the guard, but he did rescue a man from being horribly abused, and then goes on to rescue these kids. But he couldn't do any of these things without first being the outsider, right? He had to have, already he has a perspective that he didn't have before, which is, oh God, I'm a slave. I don't belong. I don't belong in the very family that raised me. I'm part of the group that we've been literally abusing quite horribly, and that we thought it was just okay to pick up some stranger and say she's a slave, she's a gift. She's a gift. She's some stranger. Who cares, you know? We're so wealthy, we can do what we want. So there's just somebody, it doesn't matter. But Moses having that moment of revelation of just, I don't actually belong with this family. This is not my true heritage. Once he has, that's his first level of perspective, realizing he's actually an outsider in his own group. And that's what makes him do the first good thing in his life, rescuing a slave from abuse. And unfortunately, accidentally killing a man. But when he runs away and he's in his own exile, it's an exile of his own choice. When he runs away, he then rescues two young girls from who knows what these criminals were going to do to them, but he rescues them, right? So he's being the outsider, and even being in exile gave him the opportunity to be a rescuer again. And that in that regard, he's being the outsider has led him to saving people who would then take him in and make them part of their family and give him a sense of values that he can appreciate, which is, I like the life that you guys live. And as when he finally gets older, after being married for years, he does eventually find the burning bush and discover that his destiny, his ordained destiny from God himself, is that he's a rescuer, that his mission in life is to go back to Egypt and set free the slaves, the people that he belongs to set them free. And that God's message to man is, people were not supposed to be slaves. We were not supposed to treat each other like this. And so everything that was an outsider's choice that led him to exile, it was actually all the little breadcrumbs, the little strings in the tapestry, that when he finally gets his life mission, it's like, oh, it was always leading here. You were always supposed to rescue people. And that's, and this is the storytellers making adjustments to what is already a known biblical tale. But nonetheless, it's like, you'll find your destiny in the place that you're sort of the most scared of, which is being the outsider, being someone who doesn't belong. You'll find your destiny. But might I strongly urge that many people who feel they're an outsider do bad things. They do things for attention because they want to be pulled back in. But ironically, when they steal stuff or when they hurt someone because it makes someone they think is their friend happy, ultimately they're only pushing themselves further and further away into a life that's not worth living. So may I urge you is that if you feel like you're an outsider, don't take it the wrong way. You're meant to do something special. And even if that's just seeing things from a different point of view, someday that point of view is going to help someone in an unexpected way, and then you'll have a path that you never thought you could have had before. So I'm just strongly urging you to stay good and to believe in yourself and to actually try to enjoy being an outsider, because there's something that you're going to do that you have no idea it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. You don't know yet what you're capable of. So if you were an outsider as a kid and you're still an outsider today, it's okay. You're going to do something amazing. Just hang on through the tears, hang on through that feeling that you don't belong, and just believe in yourself, and find something entertaining to do while you're by yourself. There's something to do. And whatever you come up with that's creative and fun, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, right? For me, it was drawing. I love to draw and I love to imagine stories. And then that led me to becoming a filmmaker. And I've met literally some of the best people. Some people I don't miss, but some of the best people in my life I've met because I was a filmmaker. And I really hope for you that you'll take what I've had to say today into your own life, that you might be alone from the people you want to fit in with, but there's a lot of people out there who feel just like you. So you're alone, but you're not alone, okay? There's someone out there. You just don't know them yet, or maybe you'll never meet them because they're in another neighborhood or they're in another city, they're in another country. Someone out there feels exactly as you do. And we are all not alone in feeling alone, but each one of us has something good and valuable to offer to the rest of society. And it's beautiful, and you're just not going to know until you start doing things. Find something to do that you enjoy on your own, and that's going to become the fruit of a wonderful future for you. And the world is always going to be hard and mean, and to tell you the truth, sometimes the group is not really a good group, and there's a good reason for you not to be a part of that group. And you just won't know again until you have distance, when you realize that that group all wanted to jump off of a bridge at the same time. You're like, well, I don't want that. And it's like, exactly. You're not going to know what was not good for you until it happens. And then you're going to realize, oh, okay, when I got the flyer for Heaven's Gate, I'm really glad I ignored it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, don't drink the Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? That's some dark stuff. But again, this is just my message that I sincerely hope, if you feel that you're on the outside and you feel you don't belong, I hope that you hear these little stories and read Old Man's War and Ghost Brigades. They're really, really good books. And I forget the title of the third book, but actually what was a trilogy is now a series. So go check out John Scalzi's work, but I highly recommend those two. But especially if you're someone who feels alone, I think Ghost Brigades is not a bad place to start. And think about Prince of Egypt. It's a wonderful animated movie. I think Prince of Egypt, Shrek, these are wonderful movies that came out when I was younger. And the whole point of these movies is that you might be an outsider who doesn't belong, but that doesn't mean you don't have a place. That doesn't mean that you're not valuable and worth loving. You're absolutely valuable and worth loving. And, you just haven't met the people who appreciate you yet, but you will. And even though it may take years, find what matters to you. And might I recommend, take the lesson. There's an important lesson in everyone else treating you wrong. You don't like that behavior, right? So don't treat anyone else like that. That's what I did. I was the outsider. People don't like me just because I'm a weirdo. In high school, I was never invited to the parties people would have where relationships would start, life experiences would happen. I was never invited to any of that. And even in college, I had a way about me that was not attractive to other people, and again, would lose experiences. But the beauty of being on the outside is that I would also experience things and get a point of view, get a perspective on life that all these people who want to fit in will never ever get. And that's worth having. And you don't even know what it's going to mean to someone else until you go through it. So it's going to be hard. I'm not promising anything's going to be easy. Life is not fair, and life is not easy. But I promise you, if you hold on, if you believe, and if you just find something that you enjoy, that matters to you, then you are going to experience something far more valuable than simply fitting in. you might actually have what some people experience as an exceptional life. That being an outsider is sometimes being exceptional, and that's better than fitting in. Not because of kudos, not because of awards, not because of recognition, but because of the pride of having something to offer that you could have never offered if you fit in. Just like Hacksaw Ridge, just like the medic who didn't want to kill other soldiers, saved 37 of his fellow platoon men, and then saved one of the enemies. And that's beautiful, okay? Because that one soldier that he saved, for the rest of that guy's life, is going to realize, holy crap, maybe the enemy is not my enemy. And there's a famous quote from Abraham Lincoln: you destroy your enemies when you make them your friends. And that means that when we all hold each other up together, that is victory. But the group sometimes can't conceive of that because they're so worried about, I want to fit into a group. And you look at all the problems with this world, every single problem that this world has is because all these people want to just fit in with each other. I want to fit in with my group, and that group over there, they're the bad guy. So I can't listen to them. I can't talk to them. We don't talk to them. Our group, we're the good ones. And yet, what's the cost of that group thinking? Look around you. What is the cost of that group thinking? Is that people care less about each other? You see other people who are left on the side of the road that nobody cares about, right? Do you think they deserve to be treated like that? You don't fit in, right? Do those people on the side of the road deserve to be abandoned like that? Is that really the benefit of the group thinking? Is that what you want life to be like? To just drive around and see someone else living in horrible conditions because nobody cares about them? Now you're sitting here being worried about being that person. What you should really be worried about is being the person that's okay with that. Because that is what the group thinks. The group thinks, I don't want to be like that, so I must fit in. But maybe, just maybe, because you're the person who doesn't fit in, you can help that person. Or at least make the world a better place so that less people have to be on the side of the road. But only someone who can see outside the box and not think in that group think tank. Only that person's going to see the solution. So embrace your loneliness. Embrace your opportunity to have a different point of view from everybody else, because it's a blessing. And you will unlock something inside yourself that you don't yet know. And let it be a beautiful thing. Don't become self-destructive. Don't destroy yourself. Don't be destructive toward other people. If you can just push past those feelings and you can stay good and stay true and believe not only in yourself, but believe in your life, that it has value, someday, all that good heart, the good heart that's within you, if you stay true to that good self that you are, someday you'll see your value. And if you're lucky, others will too. But it all starts with you. You know, you may find yourself looking back and, hey, if I fit in with people, I would have never made this really cool statue that made $1 million, and now I'm living better than I ever did. If I fit in with people, I would have never been there for my family when they were struggling. You know what I mean? If I fit in with people, I would have never done this thing that actually means so much to me that I'm grateful that I was available to do. But you have to look at your life through heaven's eyes. You have to see your own value before you can wait for other people to care. Because life is hard and life is mean and it's not fair. But out of that lack of fairness is a chance for you to be beautiful the way you are. So that's all I got to say. I hope you find this valuable. And yeah, please have a wonderful day. And I believe in you. I don't know you. I don't know who you are, but I believe in you, especially if you're an outsider who doesn't think the way other people think. Don't expect me to agree with your point of view. And again, don't if you see this and you think I'm something special, just I'm not. All right, I'm not. I'm just me. All right, I'm just me, and you're just you, and that's cool. Neither one of us needs to agree on how to see life, okay? But have your own point of view, and that's fine, okay? I believe in you to be the best that you can be in this world. And that even if you're an outsider, even if you and me are people who could never actually be friends because we have different points of view, it doesn't mean I don't believe in you to have a valuable life worth living. I absolutely believe that you're capable of it. You just have to do what all of us have to do. You just put one foot in front of the other and you keep moving one day at a time. One day at a time. And you will get there. Okay? That's my message. This is Talk Story. I hope you like it. And hopefully I'll see you next time. Mahalo and aloha.